G'day, Stu from UAVfutures here, and today I'm posing the question. We're going to be finding out what makes this Diatone 349 so special. How is it one of the fastest production drones on the planet? I mean, check out these speeds.
113 mile an hour. My goodness, and that's 3-inch. Mate, this thing's going to destroy 5-inch quads on the track.
This thing is absolutely ridiculous at 113 miles per hour. That's over 180 kilometers, which is absolutely ridiculous. If you haven't seen the part 2 or the flight review video, a little card should pop up there. You can go check that out. But right now, what we're going to do, we're going to put it on the bench, break it down, and find out in 2019 why this might be what a lot of people are turning to, what makes it so special, and how does such a tiny little drone that's coming in so cheap between the 139 to 149 mark, how does a little drone like this get so much performance? So let's do it, break it down, stick it on the bench, and have some fun in 3, 2, 1. Righty, here it is on the bench. What we're going to do, we're going to talk about the overview, the components, the design, the pros and cons, the quality, all that sort of stuff to find out why this little drone is definitely setting some records, and it is absolutely ridiculous. But you take it out of the box, and I've got to apologize, mine does look a little bit dirty, and that's because I have been giving this thing an absolute thrashing it, flying it as much as I can, and I'm very, very happy with the performance you're going to get. And there is a few little changes from when you get, I'll talk about these as well. There's a few little changes that I've done to mine versus the one when it comes fresh out of the box. But as an overview, what this is a little Binafly 3-inch FPV racing drone that is absolutely designed to be a track monster. I mean, you take it out of the box, and what I really like, you just simply plug in your receiver. You don't need to do any soldering, and then this thing, when I say you are off to the races, you are off to break some records with the acceleration, the extreme speeds and responsiveness of this FPV drone. And on top of all that, it is coming in very, very light. So if I just kind of wrap this up here, the drone itself is coming in, and I'll get that XT60 connector off. It's coming in at about 100, and see if we can see this, 140 grams. And if you want to stick some batteries on here, so here's a little 750 milliamp. Stick this on here. See if I can balance this. That's coming in, look like, there you go, 230 grams. And if I want to put this one as like an 850, see if we can balance that on there. So this is the recommended battery that I would be using, or this size anyway. Come in at, look at that, 247 grams. So with an 850 milliamp hour battery and this bad boy right here with some little additions like I've added on this XT60 instead of an XT30, you are still under that 250 gram weight limit that is in a lot of countries. So that is crazy. That's going to make a lot of people excited. You have a drone that not only is under the regulation weight limit, it also has the fastest speeds on the planet, which is absolutely good news for us FPV racers out there. Now what we're going to do, we're going to jump straight in, have a look at the components. First things first, I want to talk about the few things I did change. So when you get it, you're going to notice it did have like a little XT30 connector on there. I changed that out straight away. I put an XT60 on here because this thing is going to be drawing a lot of amps, because you need a bigger connector in my opinion, because it is going to be sucking down quite a bit of juice. The other part, I also changed the Velcro strap that you originally get with it is not quite long enough if you're going to be putting on some big 4S batteries. So for me, I also changed out a little Velcro strap because the first one it came with was just a little bit too small. So they're my two little changes. I've changed out the XT60 and changed my Velcro strap, and of course you do have to put your own little receiver in here, but luckily, because it comes with this plug pre-soldered, all you need to do if you're rocking FreeSky anyway is simply click it together, and then Bob's your uncle, you are ready to rock and roll. Very, very easy to bind up. Now the next part I want to talk about, it is 130 millimeters from motor to motor, so that's its wheelbase, so to speak. It's got a 3mm unibody frame. Let me get that Velcro strap out of the way, and it is plenty strong enough because it is so small, it is so light, you don't need a frame any thicker, and it is absolutely streamlined to rip through the air. And on the outside, it pretty much consists of two parts. So we've got our body, and then we've got our motors on the outside of the arms, and that is it. There is nothing getting in the way, and that's what lets this thing get up to some absolutely record-breaking crazy speeds. So on the outside, driving this whole powertrain, well, we've got some Gemfan flash props, and then they're a little bit hard to see, but I can put a picture on the screen because mine are a little bit dirty. But underneath that, we've got some Mamba motors. They're 1408s and 4000 kV. kV. So these motors, they've got a little bit of a higher stator, and that higher kV means these things, put simply, are gonna scream, and that is why we have the quickest quad you guys have ever seen. So these motors I absolutely love. They definitely do suck down the juice a lot more than some of the others. They're not quite as efficient, but if you're racing, you just want some crazy flying straight off the bat, you want to press your friends, take this thing out in front of them, blip the throttle, watch it disappear into the stratosphere. These motors are going to be doing that for you. Now moving towards the middle, this is where things are pretty simple. Nowadays we don't have any ESCs, no electronic speed controllers on the arms, nothing like that. We've got our little Mamba stack, so we've got a 25 amp 4S ESC in the middle. It can take a 3 or a 4S battery, and that can rock D-Shot as well, so you don't need to calibrate your ESCs or any of that sort of stuff. If you're new to the hobby, don't worry, just know that, look, D-Shot, it's got the current tech on there. We've got an F4 flight controller, which has like an OSD, which means when you're flying around, you can see things on your screen flashing up, like your battery voltage, your name, your channel that you're on, all that sort of stuff. And then even better, on top of that, what I love in this version, there's two different versions. There's about a $10 price difference. I'll put them both down below. In this version, we've also got the TBS, like a little TBS VTX in there. So you can have some TBS smart audio as well. But if you don't do that, the other VTX on the cheaper version is just situated right back here behind the camera. Now on the end of that, both of these have a tiny little dipole antenna. I have seen some mods where people put in like a bigger antenna sticking out the top. To be honest, for my little type of flying around the park, screaming around with some mates, this thing is more than enough. And then I've got to mention this at the front, one of the stars of the show. This is my new favorite camera. So you can see it is bright green. I can't believe that it's a run cam, and the field of view you actually get off this, if I take the lens out, it is a 2.1mm lens, and the field of view, it's got to be up around 150 degrees. I've never seen anything that is almost so extremely fisheye. You can see everything, but the main part, like the middle 80% of your screen, is still very, very easy to focus. It doesn't look distorted whatsoever. So that is great. So it doesn't mean if you're flying at an extreme angle, a relatively tame angle, you can still see everything, and that's exactly what you need when you've got a racing quad, because you are going fast, you're changing orientations all the time. The more screen you can see, the easier where you know where the next obstacle is, the next gate, the closest gate, all that sort of stuff. This, I actually can't, I'm going to put something on the screen too at the end of this video, but I can't believe how good this camera is. I am definitely a huge fan. On top of that, some of the little extras, we do have a little capacity thing at the back. We've got a little bit of camera protection on here at the front, and overall, it is just a very, very solid little racer that has stood up very well. On mine's taken a lot of crashes. It flies. I'm going to say the tune is about 95% of the way there. I don't know if the earlier versions are any worse, but this one, it's doing very, very well. And then what we can do, we can talk about the design of the thing, and I think they've really hit the nail on the head. Diatone, I'm going to say, has made some rubbish in the past. They've made some gems in the past. One of my favorites, the GT2, is where it really took racing. This thing is even quicker, and I love it because they've done some great stuff. They've put a very, very powerful drivetrain on the outside, combined that and streamlined it down thanks to this little pod that's containing everything in the middle, and that's resulting in a heap of power with a really small, minimal drag coefficient. So that's why this thing screams faster than anything we have seen in the past. Now, quads typically aren't very aerodynamic. We've usually got like pretty much what looks like a flying school bus with 4 arms on it. This thing, it is just taking it to the next level. Very, very streamlined, and if I had a little wind tunnel, I'm sure would be very, very impressed. And even having smaller props as well means you don't have these big discs on the outside. Yes, a larger 5-inch can push out a lot of air, but the drag at very, very high speeds starts to get pretty insane as well. Now, I want to talk about the quality of the thing, and this is where I'd probably give it like a 7.5 out of 10. It is soldered up nicely. I like everything they've got in here. I think the components are quality, especially the VTX and the camera. The Mamba stack, well, I'm just going to have to use that more. Mine hasn't had any issues. It hasn't missed a beat. I did get one desync though, and I don't know what caused that. That was on a pretty extreme punch out, but that's probably once in about 20 flights, so I don't know what caused that random. Maybe I hit something in there. I'm not 100% sure, but overall, the quality, it's a nice looking build. The plastics are nice. It holds up well. We've done a lot of crashes, and the quality of this thing, yeah, about a 7.5 out of 10. I do think you could build a little bit better if you wanted to do it yourself, but for something so cheap at the 130 to 150 buck mark, you definitely cannot complain. It is absolutely adequate enough for the price that you're going to pay. And that brings us on to finally to the pros and the cons. Well, let's get the cons out of the way first. It's a very, very tight build if you want to add stuff. So putting my receiver in here, you can see it is slipped down underneath here, underneath the camera. That is not ideal, but I don't really have too much space on top to put on a stack. The other part, of course, it's not going to carry a GoPro because it's not really designed for that. And some people aren't always the biggest fan of these these little whip antennas. Now let's talk about the pros. Number one, the performance. It is unlike, like I've flown hundreds of quads, it is unlike anything I have ever flown. It absolutely screams, speed records, all that sort of stuff, and it is so zippy. It's not just flat out speed. When you're turning with this thing, it is like it's on a wire. As soon as you move that throttle, it is responding in the air. As soon as you drop it, it drops off. This thing is just crazy performance. Easy to fly, it goes exactly where you want it. It's not drifting out in turns, and it is so light and nimble. So you are definitely going to be winning races if you're allowed to fly with this thing. I almost feel like they'll ban it because it feels like too much of an advantage over some of those bigger 5 inches. The other huge massive pro, something I love, is the price. When I originally reviewed this, I made a mistake. It was like, I thought it was between $220 and $250 because that's when I first saw them. Went over and visited the guys at Diatone in mainland China, and lo and behold, the price has come down considerably, and the release models now are like $139 to $149, which is pretty stupid if you ask me, in terms, like, I mean stupid good for us consumers out there. I can't believe you can get a drone with so much performance and so many features, you know, especially things like smart audio too. I don't even know if I mentioned that, but yeah, something like that in here for such a cheap price. So I absolutely love it. And another huge pro, which I think is absolutely essential for our hobby, it is coming in under that weight limit. It is so small, and even with a larger battery on there, you can still get under the 250 gram mark limit, which means if you're in some places like Canada or some places in the US that require registration over 250 grams, well, here you go. You can rip this thing around quite legally and have an absolute awesome time. So overall, hats off to Diatone. I am very, very impressed. I think they've done a great job with the Diatone 349R. The naming structure confuses me, you know, a 3-inch on a 4S in 2019. That's where the 349 comes from, apparently. I would like some little changes. Guys, please send it out with an XT60 instead and a bigger Velcro strap, because it is going to chew your batteries. You definitely want to put a bit of a bigger 4S on there. But other than that, I am a huge, huge fan. Hats off to Diatone. You have made something quite special that I know a lot of people who want to start drone racing, or maybe they just want to add another one to their quiver. Maybe they're worried about the weight limits, or maybe they just want to knock the socks off their friends when they drop the throttle and their mates see this thing disappear. Pretty much, that's probably why we've got green in here, because that's the color your mates are going to be. They're going to be green with envy when they see this thing ripping around. But anyway, that's it on the bench. As an overview, I want to say too, if you haven't seen that part 2 or the flight review where that little card popped up, go and watch that, because look, this thing, when you see it fly, well, you're just going to be impressed. There it is. There's my review of the Diatone 349, the 2019 version. I've got to tell you, it is ridiculous how much performance you can get out of such a small little drone for such a low cost price. And the crazy part, this is the fastest little production drone we have available today. And at the $130 to $150 mark, it is insane just how much performance you can get out of this little thing. Now that comes down to a few clever things: clever design, strong bottom rigid plate, very streamlined, and with some very powerful motors and a good prop choice. This just makes it for an absolute weapon. So if you're looking to get into the hobby, I'll put the links down below, but this thing, it definitely should be considered, especially if you just want some ridiculous speed. It's easy to fly, it handles well. I love the camera, that is absolutely amazing. And overall, if you're just getting into the hobby, you are going to have a lot of fun. And if you've got the skills to pay the bills, well, I really think you'll be beating those bigger 5-inch brothers out there. These big ones like this thing is just so much quicker. It's just ridiculous. I am totally blown away. But I'd love to know what you guys think, what you think about all the components in here, what you think about the design. Diatone sometimes can be hit and miss, but I'm really glad that I feel weird saying that, but Diatone, yeah, anyway, I'm really happy with what they've done here. Hope you guys enjoyed that. Subscribe for more FPV related, I guess, bind and fly drone record setting action, and as always, happy flying. Actually move it, don't arm it. Check this out. Tell me when you can see yourself.
Now, yeah, that's crazy.
So you can see yourself now?
Yeah.
And you're almost, look at that for a line, that's ridiculous.
There's like, what, 150 degree field of view or something? Yeah, the
field of view is ridiculous. Alright, alrighty, so hopefully you guys enjoyed that video. Definitely subscribe if you're new to the channel and check out these videos. And I'm also going to leave a little link here to my Patreon page, because I've got some fantastic Patreon supporters and I like to give back to them as well. So if you want to join the UAVfutures family, there's things like bonus Velcro straps, little bundles of FPV goodies and things like that that also get sent out. Anyway, happy flying.